This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. You've got 19 people, including 18 not named Trump, who are all tied together in a civil RICO conspiracy in Georgia, in the Georgia indictment. And now a number of them, including former lawyers for Donald Trump, like rats fleeing a sinking ship, are not only trying to jump overboard, but they're trying to stab each other and backstab Donald Trump on the way out. Now I'm going to talk about the latest example of that is Ken Chesebro. You've heard a lot about Ken Chesebro here on the MeidasTouch Network, on Legal AF, on Hot Takes, just like this one. He was one of the architects, along with John Eastman, of that great constitutional plan that was too smart by half, in which they were going to create fake electors, pressure Mike Pence, convince him not to accept the legitimately cast electoral ballots, don't certify them, throw it back to the states, let the states pick the president, let the Republican states pick Donald Trump, and we're off and running. And Ken Chesebro wrote a series of memos, his own fingerprints on them, in which he basically did one of two things. He said, there's some constitutional arguments we can raise, but they're probably not going to work, but it'll buy us some time. And that's his contribution, among other things, to the criminal RICO, racketeering, organized crime-like conspiracy brought by Fani Willis. And he is indicted in 7 counts, 7 out of 34 counts of the indictment in Georgia have Ken Chesebro's name on it. In particular, the number 1 count, right? The count that Ken Chesebro calls in his recent filing, he was only indicted on 7 counts. Yeah, but the one of the 7 counts is the 19-person criminal conspiracy called RICO. It's the way that Fani Willis binds all of these disparate activities throughout the state, all these bad acts by different people, and ties it all together in one big grand conspiracy. And if you're in for a penny in a conspiracy, you're in for a pound. Ken Chesebro doesn't like that. He doesn't want to be tried with other people, some of which he doesn't even know and probably doesn't like. He doesn't want to be tried with Sidney Powell or Donald Trump. So he immediately, and this is why you're probably thinking, didn't we hear about this already? Jumped off sides last week and said, I want to be tried by myself. And I want to do it because I'm going to invoke a particular provision that's peculiar in Georgia of their Speedy Trial Act, that if you demand speedy trial and the judge doesn't give it to you by the current term of the court or the next term, your indictment gets dismissed. Well, of course, Fani Willis doesn't want that to happen. Neither does Judge Scott McAfee. So they gave Chesebro what he wanted, an October 23rd, 2023 trial on his 7 counts. So in order to formalize that, and to try to, again, get away from Sidney Powell and others who have tried to jump on that bandwagon, he's now filed today a formal motion to sever, S-E-V-E-R. And that he's trying to sever 2 things. One, he wants the judge to announce once and for all that his case is severed and separate from the other cases that haven't yet been set for trial. There's 2 cases that have been set for a speedy trial in October of the 19, and that is Ken Chesebro and the other co-captain of Team Crazy, Sidney Powell. She also asked for speedy trial too. He wants to get away from her also. So he's now filed a motion to sever. I want my own trial. And there are, some people might be thinking, aren't there guidelines and rules on this? Well, there are. If you, I'm glad you asked. Under Georgia law, in particular, there is a statute that addresses this very issue and talks about when it's appropriate for a motion to sever to be granted by a judge. And if you look at under the Georgia Criminal Code or Penal Code 17-8-4 and a body of law under that, it says that the party seeking to sever has to make a clear showing of harm or prejudice and a denial of due process rights if the motion to sever is not granted. I think Ken Chesebro is going to have a hard time with that. Okay? He says he has to do it because he also wants to sever from the case certain counts. He only wants to take responsibility, at least at trial, for the 7 counts, of which one of them is this big, massive civil RICO. That's the tail wagging the dog in the entire indictment. But he doesn't want to have the jury know about the other 27 counts. So he wants the other 27 counts removed from the indictment as if they didn't exist. The problem with that is this is a conspiracy. And so the conspirators are responsible for everybody's bad acts. And even if it's an unindicted count, it can be a count of what's called an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. So it's not easy to uncouple, to unscramble the egg, if you will, of a conspiracy that has, in this case, over 100 listed, indicted, overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy, and along with predicate acts that underlie the conspiracy itself. So now he's asking McAfee to kind of pierce through the well-constructed indictment based on a conspiracy theory. In fact, there's 4 or 5 different conspiracies that Chesebro is charged with, and somehow, like I said, separate out the scrambled eggs, put the toothpaste back in the tube, fill in your own metaphor, and let him try the case just on the 7 as if he only brought 7, or only 7 were brought against him. And I see that as next to impossible. Nor do I see this, the denial of the motion to sever and to sever the counts, as being some sort of reversible error on appeal. I don't think Ken Chesebro's due process rights are tied to whether he can sever out and have the jury have amnesia and never be told about the bad acts of the other people who were all working within the civil RICO conspiracy. In order for the prosecutor to tell the story, the narrative to the jury about the big civil RICO case, which involves everybody that's been indicted, she's got to talk about all of the acts, all of the underlying acts, including those that don't involve Ken Chesebro. She can't just take every other page of the novel out, not this one, and then have the jury understand it, right? The jury has to have a coherent message and story and evidence presented to it. And Ken Chesebro and his lawyers, who are all over the place in their filing, it's almost like they're writing a law review article instead of arguing for a motion for sever. Well, Judge, you can't sever if this is present, but you can sever if that's present, but you really shouldn't sever. I'm like, when I read it, and I'm a 32-year practicing lawyer, I'm thinking, what side are they on? Are they trying to get the severance, or are they just kind of raising the issue? Isn't it an interesting issue whether there should be severance? I mean, come on, man, write a better piece of writing there. And I think ultimately, and we'll follow it here on Legal AF on the MeidasTouch Network, this motion to sever, which is just a way to try to say, I just want to be Ken Chesebro, tried by myself, ignore the other 18 people behind me, ignore all the other bad overt act things that go on for pages and pages of the indictment. Ignore that. I just want to try a very simple case of 7 counts, 4 different conspiracies and civil conspiracy, and bound and gag the prosecutors from talking about all the other crazies in this case. I want to get as far away from them. Well, then, Ken Chesebro, here's my response to you. Then you shouldn't have entered into a conspiracy, or at least as alleged, with 18 other people, including Donald Trump. You should have just done some bad things by yourself. And then you'd be tried by yourself, and you wouldn't have to worry about trying to get away from others because you're worried that that's going to taint the jury against you. I got a second news flash for Ken Chesebro. You've done enough that the jury is going to convict you based on the evidence that we've seen in the indictment. And we're going to get more evidence in our hands that we'll be able to analyze, because the special purpose grand jury report is going to be released to the public by the judge overseeing that. And that was the very basis for the decision to indict and seek the indictment. So we'll get all the 75 witnesses and their testimony to the special purpose grand jury, and all the other pieces of information, and the report that was generated by the special purpose grand jury and signed by the jurors and the 4 people. There's another opportunity for Donald Trump and his followers to dox the special purpose grand jury when their names are on this special report. But in any event, we'll be getting a lot more information. But this is the reason, as I'm giving it to you, I don't believe that Judge McAfee, even though he's a newbie, he's only been on the bench for 6 months, he's only 34 years old, is going to grant Ken Chesebro's motion to sever. He's going to let this case go to trial. He's going to add as many people as possible. All 19. That's the issue right now. It's not whether Sidney Powell and Ken Chesebro are going to be by themselves at a table for 2 in a prosecution in a trial. The question is, if there's going to be 17 more behind them in line at the restaurant being sat by a very willing Fani Willis, because the Fulton County District Attorney is her payback for being stampeded into trying a case in 2 months, for which she's prepared, obviously. She's had a year and a half to prepare, is she's just trying to say, you know what, we'll try everybody in October. Then we don't have to worry about March dates in the District of Columbia or May dates in Miami or in Florida. We'll just try our case, the whole thing. We're ready, Judge. And that's the fight that's going on. And the backdrop for it is Ken Chesebro is desperately trying to act like he doesn't know these people and wants to be tried by himself. I'll continue to follow it on hot takes just like this one, only on the MeidasTouch Network. If you like hot takes, I love hot takes, then you'll love what we do on Wednesdays and Saturdays when I do it with another co-anchor. It's sort of like a hot take, except we're both talking to each other and analyzing the issues just like this. Wednesdays and Saturdays, we call that podcast Legal AF. If you like this, help me with the ratings. Help me keep these videos on the air and give me a thumbs up and drop a comment in the chat. I've been known to join in and comment back, and we can open a dialogue. If you like me, I'm Michael Popok, sometimes referred to as Popok, and you can follow me on all things social media, including Threads at MS Popok. Until the next hot take, this is Michael Popok, Legal AF.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.